there! Today we're going to do a basic tutorial for Amigurumi crochet for my new starter Amigurumi pattern, which is this multi-purpose little stuffy. So I've got a few different ways that you can finish it with different ears. This is the bunny. There's a dog, a kitty, and then there's some others like carrot and strawberry, and I've got a few others kicking around, and that pattern's available on my website. We're going to be doing today the very basics from the very beginning, and we'll be completing this pattern round by round. So the first thing that we want to do is look at our pattern, which I've got a printed copy here. And so if we look at our pattern, the directions are to start with CH3, which means chain 3. And a chain is really the basis of pretty much all forms of crochet. Almost all crochet is based on a chain. So we're going to start out with our ball of yarn. So this is the ball, the end of the yarn that's connected to your ball is basically your ball end, and then this end here is kind of like the tail. It's the working end. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to make a slip knot, and one of the easiest ways that I find to do that is to make like the shape of an awareness ribbon. So if you look here, I've got the basic shape of, you know, like the Support the Troops or breast cancer or whatever, with the short end, the tail, over the longer end that's connected to the ball. And you put your two fingers through the center of your awareness ribbon, and with the tail over the longer piece that's connected to your ball, put your fingers through the center of it, pinch a piece of yarn that's connected to your ball, and pull it through, and there you have a slip knot. If you know other ways to do a slip knot, then you can just do that. You don't have to do it that way. That's just the only way that I really know how to explain it. So now that you've got your slip knot on your hook, you can snip the tail so it's not in your way too much. Not too long. Okay, and I'll show you how to do a chain stitch. So if you are holding the tail of your yarn with your hook, and then your working yarn is sort of out, you wrap the working yarn around your hook. That's called yarn over. So yarn over your hook, and then you're going to pull that yarn over through that hole, through your slip knot that you just made. And there's one chain stitch. You can kind of see it. It looks like a little bit of a V shape. And let's do that again. So we've got, now this is one chain stitch on here instead of our original slip knot. We'll yarn over and pull it through the loop. And now we've got two chain stitches. Get the stuff out of here. Okay, so we've got two chain stitches on there. And again, yarn over and pull through. I find it helps if you actually hold on to your tail while you're doing it. So there we've got 1, 2, 3 chains on there. So now that we've got our 3 chains, on the second chain from our hook, so we can see here, that's the first chain, that first little V shape, and that's the one that's holding our the loop that's around our yarn. So we won't work in that one. That's the first chain from the hook. But in the second one, so that'll be the second little V from the hook, we're going to pop into our hook into one of the little loops of that V. And just to kind of illustrate, if you look, we've got one V, that's the first chain from the hook, and then this is the second chain from the hook. So just in that loop there is where we're going to put our crochet hook. So now we've got that chain stitch on our hook, and then that loop from the second chain from our hook. And what we're going to do is we're going to do a slip stitch in that hole. So, sorry, not a slip stitch, a single crochet stitch. We'll do our first one. And the pattern calls for 7 single crochet stitches. So it'll be 7 single crochet stitches we'll do all together. So for our first one, we've got our hook inserted into where we're putting the stitch. And we go yarn over, pull through that loop, and then yarn over and pull through both loops. And that is 1 single crochet stitch. We're going to go back into the exact same spot and do another single crochet stitch. So yarn over, pull through, yarn over, and pull through both loops. That's 2 single crochet stitches. And you can kind of see how it's starting to form a hole. We're going to go back into the same place, insert your hook, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, and then pull through both loops. That's 3 single crochet stitches. Back into the same place, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, and then pull through both loops. So now that's 4. Yarn over, pull through, yarn over, and pull through both. Now it's 5 single crochet stitches. You can start to see how it's forming a circle. And for our 6th. And now our 7th single crochet stitch. Oh, that one's kind of messed up. Let's redo that one. So back into the same hole, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, and then through both loops. So now we have 7 single crochet stitches. Just to demonstrate, this little V here is our first single crochet. This little V here is our second. This little V is our third. That little V is our fourth, our 5th, our 6th, and our 7th. And now the pattern calls for 7 increases. And what an increase is basically 2 single crochet stitches in a single stitch from the previous round. So this here is exactly 1 round that we've done. So we've completed round 1, we did our 7 single crochet stitches. And we're going to start working in the first single crochet stitch from the previous round, which is this one right here. So it's that first little V, that first little single crochet stitch that we had. And sometimes that's a little bit tight, it's kind of hard to find. But what you want to find is that first V. And so where you're going to put your hook is under both of the loops from that V. So we're going to work in both loops in this pattern. So you put your hook in through both. Now you see we've got our original loop, and then we've got the 2 arms of that first little V. Yarn over and pull through. Then yarn over, pull through both. So that's our first single crochet stitch from round 2. And you can see it's kind of tied our little donut together. So now we're doing 2 single crochet stitches in every single stitch from the previous round, which means two stitches equals 1 increase. So we've got 1 single crochet in this, so we go back into the same spot, do another single crochet, and that is 1 increase. And now the next place we're going to work in is that next little V, which is right here. You can put your yarn needle in there if you want to kind of open it up. And we're going to do 2 single crochet stitches, which equals 1 increase. So we put the hook in, yarn over, pull through, then yarn over and pull through both. So that's the 1 single crochet, and then again. So that is a full increase, which is 2 single crochet stitches. And now for the next one. So we've done 2 increases now, so this is our 3rd increase. So that's our 3rd increase done. And our 4th. Our 5th. Sixth. And now our 7th increase. And anytime you aren't too sure how many you've done, you can always go back and count. And you want to use those little V's. They really tell you where the stitches are. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, and then there's our 14th one holding the loop onto our hook. So now that we've done 14 single crochet stitches, there's 2 in each stitch from the previous round, for a total of 14. We're going to move on to round 3. And round 3 calls for 2 single crochet, so that means 1 single crochet in every stitch from the previous round, then an increase, then a regular single crochet, then an increase, and then 2 regular single crochets. So what we're going to do is, as we start working, we're going to mark where we were so that we know when we get to the end of our round. So the first part of that round calls for 2 regular single crochets. So I'm going to do 1, and then I'm going to mark my stitch so that I know where I started this round, just in case I make a mistake. And you basically just use these like little safety pins, put them through the V of the first stitch from the round so that you know that when you get there you should be done. So I've done 1 regular single crochet, and now I'm going to do the second one because the pattern calls for 2 regular single crochet. Then it calls for an increase, so that's 2 single crochet in 1 stitch from the previous round. And then it calls for a regular single crochet, and then it calls for another increase. So that's again 2 single crochet in 1 stitch from the previous round. And then it calls for 2 more regular single crochet. So that's 1 single crochet in 1 stitch from the previous round, and then the 2nd single crochet in 1 stitch from the previous round. And now the pattern calls for repeating that sequence. So we're going to do it all over again. So we go 1 single crochet and 2 single crochet, followed by an increase, followed by a regular single crochet, followed by an increase, and then followed by 1, and then 2 regular single crochet. And the last stitch I did is just before my beginning stitch marker, so I know I haven't missed a step or dropped a stitch. So that was round 3 for a total of 18 stitches. And so I'm going to pop my stitch marker out. And now for round 4. Round 4 calls for 4 regular single crochet. So I'll do my first one, and then I can pop my stitch marker back in there. So there's 1 regular single crochet, 2, 3, then 4, and then it calls for an increase. So that's 2 single crochet in 1 stitch from the previous round. So we're doubling them up just for that 1 increase. And then 8 regular single crochet. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And then 1 increase. Followed by 4 regular single crochet. And you can kind of see it's starting to take on a little bit of an oval shape. And the reason for that is that on the first round we had even increases all around, which made basically a circle that kept growing in a circle shape. But when we started having regular single crochets and then putting the increases on the sides, it made it have more of an oval shape. And now the pattern calls for just plain single crochet, 1 stitch in each stitch all the way around. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 19, and 20. And you can kind of see that it's starting to take on like a little hat shape. Like it's got a definite shape to it. And you may have noticed that you've got kind of a little cat butt thing going on. And I'll take this opportunity to show you the difference between the wrong side and the right side. So the right side of your fabric is going to look like a series of little V's. And it shouldn't have the tail of your chains showing. The wrong side, however, will have a little vertical bar, and it'll look kind of chunkier. It'll look a little bit chunkier, and it'll probably have your chain stitches sticking out. If you're working and you find that this side is showing, just pop it out. And make sure that the side that you can see is the side that is all nice little vertical V shapes and there's no horizontal bars. And what we're going to do is take the sort of tail end of the yarn and just kind of use it to seal up that hole. So you just want to run it through your yarn needle and just pull it through some of the stitches on the wrong side so that it's a little bit snug. There's other methods of starting that you can sort of graduate to use when you become a little bit more advanced with your crochet. And you can get it to look a little bit better. But when you're just starting out, if you find you have a hole, you can just kind of sew it shut. And then that way it doesn't really show, and when you stuff it, it'll really not be noticeable. If ever it does look noticeable, use some yarn and just stitch it shut on the inside, and nobody will be the wiser. So we've completed round 5, and then rounds 6 through 8 are repeats of round 5. So they're just continuation of single crochet all the way around. So I'll do round 6, and I'm just counting the stitches as I go instead of using my stitch marker. So 1, 2, 3, So there's round 6. Done. And just to show you so you get an idea, for eyes, there are all kinds of different types of safety eyes. So for example, I've got some, like these are 8mm black ones. These are some colored ones. They're also 8mm and there's a hole in the bag, so that's awesome. These are some little oval noses. And here's some little 6mm. Alright, so let's say for example I wanted to give it little white eyeballs. So the way that these work is that you find sort of where you want to put them. I tend to try to space them evenly. So say I wanted to put one here. And then maybe put the other one over there. And then on the inside you just pop the backings on and then just sort of pop those in place, and that's how you get the eyes on. So they're not very complicated, they're just sometimes a real pain in the butt to get the actual backings to pop in place depending on how hard of plastic they are. These ones are particularly hard. And then, like say I wanted to add a nose. I've got these little red oval noses. I'm going to put that one here. And then we've got this delightful little weirdo. You always want to put these in before you stuff your piece or before you start your decreases. But I'm not actually going to put these in because I actually have to use like a screwdriver to get them to pop the backs on. And I don't want to do that right now. So round 6 is done. And now I'm going to continue on to round 7 and 8. Okay, so now that we have completed round 8, we're going to move on to round 9, which calls for 5 regular single crochet and an invisible decrease. So we'll do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then for the invisible decrease, the way that you do those, and this is how we decrease our stitches, so we're going to go from 20 stitches in a round to 18, and the way that you do an invisible decrease is you go through just the very first loop of the V from your stitch, so just the front loop, so not the back one, just the front one. And then you push your hook downwards and go pop up into the very first front loop of the next stitch. So we've got the front loops of the next 2 stitches on our hook. We're going to yarn over and pull through both of those loops, and then we're going to yarn over and pull through both. And what that's done is it took 2 stitches from the previous round and turned it into 1. And then the pattern calls for another 7 regular single crochet So we go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. And we're going to do another invisible decrease. So again, we're going to point our hook downwards and pop up through the front loop of our next stitch, then point the hook downwards again and pop up through the front loop of the stitch after that. So we've got the front loops of 2 stitches on our hook, yarn over and pull through both of those, then yarn over and pull through both. That's our second invisible decrease, and then it calls for 4 more regular single crochet. So 1, 2, 3, 4. And you can kind of see how it's starting to pull in a little bit. And our next round calls for 1 regular single crochet, followed by 1 invisible decrease, and to repeat that sequence a total of 5 more times. So one single crochet and 1 invisible decrease. So that's our first repetition. We'll go on to our second repeat. So single crochet, and invisible decrease. And now for a third repeat, single crochet and invisible decrease. And fourth repeat, single crochet and invisible decrease. And our fifth repeat, single crochet followed by invisible decrease. And you can see at this point that the hole is starting to close up quite a bit. The next round calls for 5 invisible decreases. So we'll do maybe 2, then stuff our piece because it'll be really small by then. So there's our second one. And now to stuff it. You want to stuff it pretty firmly, but also not too firmly, because sometimes when you have too much stuffing, it'll actually warp the shape. Just regular polyester stuffing is in my opinion best. Cotton's more expensive and has a tendency to get lumpy, and if you have to wash it, polyester stuffing will dry pretty quick. Some people like to use beans, rice, lentils and stuff like that. That's really great until your thing gets wet or gets weevils in it. So, because if it gets wet, it's going to absorb, those grains will absorb moisture, and then they'll either start to grow or they'll rot. So even though it's very cute and it's nice to have a stuffy with a bit of weight to it, I find that the beans and the lentils are best stayed away from. You can buy plastic pellets, even little rocks like little decorative gravel, that can work nicely if you want to have a weighted. So here we're pretty firmly stuffed, and so we're going to finish off. So we've got 2 invisible decreases done so far. We need to do 3 more. And I just like to poke the stuffing in with my finger just to make sure that it doesn't get worked into the stitches, because it bugs me when you can see it. So there's 1, and there's our second invisible decrease. And our third one. And this will be the last stitch. And then we'll cut it, leaving a nice long tail for stitching, and then just pull the yarn through the last stitch. Thread that onto your yarn needle, and you just want to go around under the outside loop, the front loop of all of your stitches to stitch that hole closed. And then once it's stitched closed, you can just kind of weave it in to the piece and have it sort of coming out in random places. And then I usually just sort of weave the yarn through the piece a few times without pulling too tightly, but just to sort of anchor it. And then pull it through a little bit, cut, and then when you sort of squish it around, there's just no visibility of that. So there is the little ball, and as you can see, it's not a perfect ball. It wasn't really supposed to be. I tried to do kind of like an oval face, and you can make the different ears and beaks and things for your pattern to turn them into different things. And that's it. Thanks for watching.